Matthew Stafford, I think, is one of the more underrated quarterbacks. Still, as a veteran quarterback, he is a Hall of Famer. Oh, you don't think Matthew Stafford's a Hall of Famer?
No. He's in the Fantasy Football Hall of Fame. What makes you think he's a Hall of Famer? Is Philip Rivers a Hall of Famer?
Philip Rivers will be a Hall of Famer, 100%. I think him, Ben Roethlisberger, and Eli Manning will be Hall of Famers.
Two of those guys have 2 Super Bowl championships. Stafford's got 1. Stafford's probably got a better shot than Philip.
Philip Rivers, statistic-wise, he's been one of the greatest quarterbacks of this era.
Fantasy Football Hall of Famer.
But you look at the NFL, they look at statistics, do they not? I know Super Bowl, but Super Bowl is a team game. One player doesn't win a Super Bowl. You're going to say that Tom Brady won those 7 Super Bowls? He was a part of those Super Bowl teams. He didn't win it himself.
You cannot even interject Tom Brady into this conversation.
Well, I'm just saying.
He's moonwalking in. By that argument, you're basically saying Ben Roethlisberger and Eli are not. Because you're saying Philip Rivers has better stats than both of them.
He does, but they won Super Bowls too, and they have good stats too. They're amongst the league's greatest statistic-wise. When you look at this era and you're comparing quarterbacks like Joe Montana, Dan Marino, if he played at this time, he'd probably be the greatest quarterback to ever play the game.
Correct.
Because of his statistics. You're trying to compare and contrast certain players from those eras. You have to look at particular numbers at the time that they were dominant. And you look at Matthew Stafford with the Lions, how many times did he throw over 4,000 yards on a really bad Lions team that could never get into the playoffs? That's not Matthew Stafford's fault. The defense was terrible. The offensive line could never protect him. So Matthew Stafford, even going to the Super Bowl with the Rams, I think no doubt in my mind was a Hall of Famer even before then.
Matt Schaub had several 4,000-yard seasons too much.
Oh, stop it.
I'm not saying Matthew Stafford's not a Hall of Famer. I don't think he's moonwalking in.
I don't think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm not saying he's a moonwalking Hall of Famer.
He was a definite Hall of Famer.
I think he's going to make it to the Hall of Fame. And no doubt in my mind, Philip Rivers is making it to the Hall of Fame. In almost every single statistic as a quarterback, he was in the top 10 of all time.
Matt Ryan can go in the same class since we're in that lane.
The Buffalo Bills, a lot of injuries on defense. How worried are you about them?
I think it's weird because you can't figure them out. They're so all over the place offensively. I mean, Josh Allen looks great sometimes. He's taking hits he hasn't taken before. Sometimes they run the ball well. Their identity's a little skewed, but they're still so talented. And then defensively, they've had their ups and downs. The thing that's different with them this year is you've got Miami, who's given them problems. The Jets, Robert Saleh's got to be in there for Coach of the Year, one of the nominees. The fact that he's got them afloat and giving teams hell every week. I would think Buffalo is going to be a playoff team. We'll see if they can get on the type of run that they may need to get there when they get hot at the right time. But there's just a lot of other teams that could get in their way. I mean, we don't talk about the Jaguars enough. They're 6-2. They're tied with the best record in the AFC. They look really real on both sides of the ball. What they did physically in Pittsburgh last weekend was something I think teams are wondering if they could do. And they went up there and they banged. But against the Buffalo, I think they might have a few more obstacles to get through than they had the past couple of years.
We're talking NFL Network Senior Chief Reporter Steve Wyche. Steve, you mentioned the New York Jets. I'm a Jet fan, and I know you're friends with Rich Eisen, who has his own thoughts to the Jets all off-season, going into the season. And we thought we were going to have Aaron Rodgers. He gets hurt in 4 plays on Monday Night Football, the biggest watch Monday Night Football game in NFL history. And then everybody was like questioning, are the Jets going to be a playoff contender? Are the Jets going to even be afloat this year? They bring in Zach Wilson, and he's been horrific. He's been horrible. I think he's putrid, but the defense has been fantastic. And even with some of these offensive line injuries that they've had, they've stayed afloat all season long. Do you think that this team is really good enough right now to make the playoffs?
No, they're good enough to be that gnat in your ear when you're trying to sleep. You think about some of the teams, the Chiefs are going to be there. Jacksonville looks very tough. Buffalo, Miami, the entire AFC North. I put all those teams ahead of the Jets. The Jets are the serious A for effort team, and they got in the playoffs. I mean, you never know, but they're going to be in every game. If Robert Saleh gets these guys anywhere near 500, he won't win Coach of the Year, but people can't sit there and say he can't coach anymore. I think he's done a pretty good job, and the fact he's held these guys together the way he has thus far, very, very impressed.
Wow, I'm surprised because I haven't been. It's
Why?
not. I'm a Jet fan. I'll take shots at the Jets because I just don't like the game plans. And going against the Giants, I know it was raining, and I know everybody's making an excuse. There was so many mistakes the Jets made in that game against a team that's not even close to what the talent the Jets have on the field. They should have ran all over the New York Giants. The play calling was horrible in the second half. It took the Jets to the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left to figure it out. It just was putrid, and the Jets got lucky.
You can say that about the Steelers each week, too.